bacon fest. We cooked, I don't know, 100 pounds of bacon and just put it on platters and fed it to everybody at Jim Bob's.
Clearly, the viewers are as interested in your Jim Bob story as I am. So you worked at Jim Bob's, amazing place, by the way. If you're listening to this and you're from outside of London and you didn't have the opportunity to have many drinks at Jim Bob Ray's, I'm sorry. Ryan and I seem to both have, at some point in time, had fun there. And you were probably a big portion of it, and we didn't even know. So I need to know, in your 12 years of contributing to Jim Bob's, I need to know one crazy story that's happened there, man. I know I'm taking this off the real estate path, but there's some good stories that have happened if the walls could talk at Jim Bob's.
Oh, man, I could go through a bunch. There was one Brody Jenner story I cannot tell on this podcast.
Was he DJing?
No, he was out having a good time, too much of a good time. And oh man, there's so many. Honestly, if I think about Jim Bob's and a story that really kind of brings me back to, Bacon Fest, that's it. So Chris Evans, who's an absolute monster videographer, does music videos in LA, like probably one of the most prolific cinematographers in and around our territory, was working for Premier Productions at the time. And this is just one of my favorite stories because it reminds me of how Mike ran the business. And we were actually we were rebranding the restaurant. So from like 2005 to 2008, there was an element and a vibe that just wasn't the right vibe at Jim Bob's. So my specialty was like rebranding, getting the right people in there. I was working in marketing communications, and social media was just starting to come out. And we had GMs and other people that were involved. We're like, how do we get the right people in there? And I called DJ Hush, who's Derek Sung, who's a really good friend of mine to this day. And he ended up starting a company called Premier Productions. And they basically, the whole premise was, okay, we'll play country music for 6 months, get everybody out of the bar, empty the place out. Then we'll get everybody from like Kings and Western and just make it super accessible, make people feel safe and make it awesome. And let's do activations. So one of the activations was Bacon Fest. We cooked, 100 pounds of bacon and just put it on platters and fed it to everybody at Jim Bob's. And it was awesome. The video is still on YouTube. You can type in Bacon Fest, Jim Bob Ray's. You can see Chris Evans as like a kid handing out the bacon. The reason that story to me stands out is Mike was always really good at allowing his people in his organization to treat the company like they were an owner themselves. Like one of my biggest pieces of education was I did every job in the company. By the end, Mike, I kind of created a job for myself as the marketing and communications manager. All that really meant was I went into each restaurant and I'm like, okay, this is how we're going to get people in. Like I was running down Richmond Street, handing out free pieces of pizza, like just testing different things and trying it at a speed of light. Where if you look at large corporate companies and people that are deemed like global competitors of mine, the way I'm taking mandates from them today is I am fast, I am nimble, and I can move at a speed that they cannot move their big ships with anymore. And the reason that I think that story translates nicely to this is anybody watching this, you have that ability in you. Like these guys starting this podcast, getting into thought leadership, look at how much they've accomplished in a short window of time. That exists in every single person out there if you have clarity on what your ambitions are and what actions might take you there. It does take a consistency of action, but again, if you're around good people, you'll naturally get to work. Otherwise, you'll
check out our YouTube or Spotify channel and don't forget to subscribe.